When it comes to North Korea, now Trump wants to talk. The US president says an agreement is possible to resolve the dispute over North Korea's nuclear weapons program. He's tweeted, "The deal with North Korea is very much in the making and will be, if completed, a very good one for the world. Time and place to be determined." Such a summit would be the first between a North Korean leader and a sitting US president ever. The two leaders have repeatedly traded insults and threats of military action, increasing fears of war between the two countries. So the prospect of talks has been welcomed by China and Russia, as well as by South Korea. However, Washington has already tried to back out of other promises to different countries. Trump's view on the 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and 6 world powers, the US, the UK, France, China, Russia and Germany, and his open promise to tear it up, shows why Pyongyang might not easily trust him. Some commentators have said, as with the Iran deal, the American president would betray Pyongyang afterwards. That's why it has been suggested that a strong involvement by Russia or China would make such a U-turn more difficult. To underline the point, Russian President Vladimir Putin recently said that any attack on Russia's allies was an attack on Moscow itself, and Russia would hit back with a response that would cause catastrophe for mankind. In other words, the global public are still living under the shadow of massive nuclear war if talks fail and fighting starts. Is there any chance that North Korea will abandon its nuclear program? And would this be regarded as a sign of surrender to the United States, whose former embassy is here in central London? Simple questions with important answers. We've all seen and heard the provocative insults made by both America and North Korea against each other. So will these talks even happen? Here's the view of the British public.
I don't really trust anything that the president in America says.
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because Trump's a maverick and he will do what he will do rather than do what everybody else has done, which is just prevaricate all the time and keep putting it off.
No.
Why not?
I just don't think Donald Trump is the right person to talk to Korea.
I think they'll happen, but I think it's just hot air.
Why do you think that?
No one's going to tell Kim Jong-un what to do, are they? Let's be real, he's ignored everyone till now, so why would he change his stance on that?
I think it's possible. If you look at the fall of Soviet Russia, no one thought the Berlin Wall would come down, and yet it came down in '89. So it's not something you can ever rule out. I mean, there's going to be constant variables that change all the time, economics, political power plays, and that will change depending on who's in power, what the issues are in North Korea at the time, how America responds to it. It's all constantly changing, so it's something you can't rule out, certainly. So I think there may well could be, whether it will be in mine or your lifetime is, unforeseen.
They definitely might happen. Obviously, it takes for the right people to actually get them in order. I think also it's bigger than just them two countries, because right now we're seeing a lot of controversy around the world. So I feel it might take all of them combined just to make something happen.
I would hope so, because I'd rather it went to talks than to violence. So I hope that they're grown up enough on both sides to have a discussion.
No, I don't think they will. I think they're just acting really childish, and you probably need a third party to come in and sort of bang their heads together, really.
Well, I sincerely hope so. They won't just be in the interests of North Korea and America, but they will be in the interests of humanity. And in the words of Albert Einstein, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. And even though publicly Pyongyang and Washington have been trading some ferocious insults with each other, privately I suspect that they are talking, and that is a good thing. I have a slight concern now that John Bolton has been appointed as Donald Trump's national security advisor. John Bolton is a ferocious opponent of North Korea, but nonetheless, I still do believe that the talks will occur between North Korea and America, and in that we should rejoice.
Well, we are talking about two of the most unpredictable leaders probably in the history of the two countries. So it's really hard to say whether it will happen or not, but signs are that, to me, it seems unlikely. I mean, if you look at the steps Trump has taken since he's sacked two of his most liberal officials in Tillerson and McMaster. Both were supportive of a negotiation with the Koreans, but he's got rid of them and installed hawks from Pompeo and also Bolton. These guys are extremely aggressive in their foreign policy. They want to bomb North Korea. And also look at the timing, May, and there's lots happening in May. In May you have the recertification of the Iran deal, and also you have the moving of the Israeli-US embassy from Jerusalem. So there's lots happening in May. So given what Trump's done since, and also the trade war with China, I very much doubt it will happen in May. But who knows, these are unpredictable guys.
Does the public here in Britain think that North Korea would give up its nuclear development program if talks do go well with the United States? We asked them.
No.
Why not?
Because I think they want to be in power. Their leader is power-based, so why would he give his power up?
You mean in North Korea?
Yeah. It's giving him a power base, and so I don't think he will give it up.
No, definitely not. That's what they've got against us.
So do you think that that's their deterrent?
Yes, yeah.
I don't think they'll give them up. I think they'll keep the weapons that they've got, and they may stop producing further, but they're not going to give them up.
Well, the reason why, say, the British Empire gave up its empire was we could still be a powerhouse of a nation. This is going back years. We didn't actually need to cost the empire. We could do the same thing and maintain a presence on the world stage with the use of the nuclear weapons. And North Korea needs that. It can't really compete in any other way. A lot of its GDP is gained from actual drug sales, specifically opium and heroin. So it needs nuclear weapons to remain a big hitter alongside the likes of America, Russia. So I don't think there's any way they would give them up, no.
It's North Korea we're talking about. Highly doubt it.
I don't think they will. I'd like to say yes, but I don't think they will.
I'd like to hope they would, but I'm not sure they will.
Under no circumstances will North Korea give up its nuclear weapons. Pyongyang is very, very well aware that the reason why the Americans haven't invaded North Korea or bombed North Korea is because North Korea has nuclear weapons. For North Korea, its nuclear deterrence is its ultimate protection against American aggression, against American antagonism. Pyongyang knows that America has never attacked or invaded a country which has nuclear weapons. America bombed Serbia, bombed Libya, invaded Iraq, for example, because those countries did not have nuclear weapons. So nuclear weapons safeguards North Korean independence, North Korean sovereignty, and no matter how well or how bad the talks between Washington and Pyongyang goes, the North Koreans will not give up their nuclear weapons, and rightly so.
The talks doesn't just have to go well, they have to go really, really well. Having said that, what kind of concessions is US willing to make, bearing in mind it is the superpower? Is it willing to remove its troops from South Korea? So these are the questions that will need to be addressed, and unless those basic concessions are made, I don't see how North Korea, which sees nuclear weapons almost like a religion, giving up nuclear weapons for North Korea is like another country giving up its religion. That's how they see it, and they have an argument for wanting it. I would think from their point of view, given the situation around the world, every single nuclear country in Europe, UK, France, and also the US, they've increased their nuclear stockpiles. They've invested a lot in nuclear weapons, so they see that as a threat. So unless you can make those concessions and reassure them, I don't see how you can convince them to give up their nuclear weapons.
Similar promises of security were made to the former leaders of Libya and Iraq. Does the British public believe that Kim Jong-un should trust the United States in talks, or is there a risk of being betrayed later?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, I don't think you can trust the president. So I think there's other people that you can probably trust, but at the moment, I don't think the two of them are equally as trustworthy.
Well, for sure, yeah. I mean, obviously they want to try and do something about it, but dealing with someone like Kim Jong or Kim Jong-un is not going to make life easy for anyone. But better to talk than not to talk.
America does what it wants, doesn't it? They think they're the superpower of the world and no one can touch them. So who would trust the Americans?
I think so, yeah.
Why is that?
Because regardless of what your creed, relations, colour, any of that, the making of money and capitalism, the only colour it cares about is green. And that's the same whether you're American, Korean, South Korean, Russian. So I think when times are desperate enough, I think the motivation of money will come into play, definitely. Yeah.
No, we just need to take America off their high horse. It's about time they stop being considered the leaders of the world, because obviously we see a lot going on. There's a lot of culture diversity now. We see a lot of light being shed on Africa. So we just need to get America off that high horse.
I think it's a gun culture there, and there's a lot of money in guns, and I don't think it's going to be a simple yes or no answer. I think it's going to take time and negotiation, and the people have got to say what they want.
Not currently. I think he's absolutely bonkers.
History proves that America is not a reliable country. Any country which trusts America does so at its own peril. Now, I have to support how Donald Trump has called for a meeting with the North Korean leader. That is important. It is important not just for North Korea, not just for America, but for the wider region. If there was to be an outbreak of hostilities between America and North Korea, the human cost would be absolutely horrific. So America and North Korea will enter into talks not really trusting each other, certainly not liking each other, but what's the alternative? The Americans know that in a war with North Korea, they would incur terrible casualties, and their ally, South Korea, would incur terrible casualties. And for North Korea, they know that in a war with America, there would be a tremendous cost in North Korean casualties, and of course America would win in a conflict with North Korea, and that would be the end of the North Korean government. So even though America is not reliable, there is no alternative but for both countries to enter into negotiations. You can only benefit by talking. If you don't talk, then there's only one guarantee: there will be no benefit, there will be no improvement. Even if there is a 1% improvement in relations between Washington and Pyongyang, that is a good thing.
Yeah, I think the talks have to go not just well, but really, really well. North Korea has to be convinced that it can. There's greater security by giving up nuclear weapons. How do you convince a country, a recluse country, that it will be more secure? Would the US be willing to remove its troops from South Korea? Can there be reassurances from its neighbors, from China, from Japan, from South Korea, that there's a regional solution to having denuclearization of the region? So that convincing is a tough ask. But nuclear weapons in North Korea is like a religion in the country. How do you give up a religion, the nation, unless certainties are given? I can't see it happening anytime soon.
North Korea has a population of about 23 million versus South Korea's 51 million. In military terms, South Korea has an army of about 625,000 active military personnel, compared to about 1 million in North Korea. However, with reserves, the South can muster 3.75 million personnel, and Pyongyang can boost its army to over 7 million. If talks between Washington and Pyongyang go wrong, potentially 11 million Koreans could be sent to war.
Some described North Korea's decision to agree to talks as giving in to the US. What does the public think?
No.
Why not?
I think they're just talking. By talking is not to say they're going to change anything, or even if they say they're going to change, if they will change, then don't believe it.
China is quite happy for North Korea to be where it is because it excludes American influence in that particular region. So rather than applying all the sanctions they have done, they've allowed them to continue, but on a sort of slightly much more limited basis. Whether South Korea and North Korea will ever get together in order to do a deal together and exclude the Americans further, I don't know, but then he might just be playing for time.
No, it doesn't show weakness. They can talk, but they're still going to have their weapons. You never know what's going to happen, do you?
I think they're cleverer than a lot of people think. Politics is the be-all and end-all for America, whereas North Korea, they show what they do, basically, so I don't see it going anywhere further.
Kim Jong-un has taken over from his father, who was a very well-respected leader. He's trying to solidify his hold on power, as shown by his purging of many people in his inner circle, the killing of his, I think it was his uncle, the recent assassination of a North Korean delegate, via 2 assassins with poison. So it's important for him to look, it's very important for him to look strong at this point in time. And the best way to do that is by essentially telling America to get stuffed. So I think it will make him look weak, definitely. But if you can find some way of allowing him to maintain semblance of dignity while also getting to the meat of the issues at hand, I think will be the way forward.
No, I don't.
No, I don't think they're giving in at all. I think they just want to give the appearance that they're willing to talk. I hope they are, but I'm not sure.
No, I think they need to be seen to be trying to make an effort and have talks.
I don't agree with that, and I don't believe we should view this as who has won and who has lost. We could flip it on the other side and say that America has given in to North Korea, knowing that because North Korea has nuclear weapons, they can't take military action against it. I don't believe that North Korea has won or lost. I don't believe America has won or lost. There is only one winner in all of this, and that is humanity, that is mankind. Because if America was to attack North Korea, it is believed there would be 100,000 American casualties, there would be 1 million South Korean casualties, and there would be untold numbers of North Korean casualties. So please, let's not view this as who has won, who has lost. By both parties entering into dialogue, humanity has won, peace has won, stability has won. We must support communication.
To some extent, North Korea does have the highest expenditure in weapons as a percentage of its GDP in the world, so it's hurting. And I won't be surprised if that's part of the consideration, the calculation. But that said, Kim Jong-un can present this as a success in the sense that he's not made any concessions, and he's got a table, he's got a meeting with the superpower, he's got a meeting with the United States president. So without having to concede anything, to him, he can present that as a success to his country. So in some ways, no, it's not giving in, but I won't be surprised if within the corridors of power, they are thinking, if there is a way without making us look weak, without making us look like we've compromised, then why not? So it's what it seems to be at the moment.
What would happen if North Korea and the United States do not reach an agreement at the end of such talks? Here's the public's view.
Oh, I don't know. I really wish nothing bad happens. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know if it's just male testosterone, hemming and hawing backwards and forwards.
Back to what it's been before, which is, heated conversation and everybody name-calling and possibility of worldwide nuclear goodbye to everyone. So I hope for that sake alone that the talks continue.
Nothing. Just be a load of hot air and threats. No one's clever enough to push that button. It's not going to happen. They push that button, everyone pushes it, and no one's a winner.
I would like to say there wouldn't be war, but I wouldn't necessarily discount it either. I think there definitely would be some sort of conflict. There has been in the past, the Korean War. There's certainly been skirmishes between North and South Korea. But I think South Korea actually has a lot of say in whether that happens or not, because when you look at the demographic of South Korea, an awful lot of them want unification with the North. And with the North, there's a similar thing. In fact, some of the factories on the line of the DMZ are actually joint owned. They have North and South Korean owners, workers, sorry. So I don't think there will be war, at least not for maybe another 70, 80 years.
I'm not sure if I'd say war, because it feels like we're already living a war. So I don't know what the worst could happen from here on.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, people like to blow it all up and say we're going to war and everything else, but I hope that all countries have learned that that's not the best way forward, and that they'll just negotiate more but actually get something done.
Well, you'd like to hope they're going to other talks, but I think it's quite worrying. I think it could escalate, and I think that's what everyone's really nervous about.
Well, if they don't reach an agreement by the end of these talks, then I hope there will be another round of talks between them. The differences between North Korea and America are absolutely enormous. They are diametrically opposed to each other on virtually every issue. So we have to give this time. An agreement will not be reached overnight, and I don't believe an agreement will be reached in the first round of talks. But all that matters is that the Americans and the North Koreans are talking. They are no longer talking in the language of war, because in war, who loses? It's ordinary people. Ordinary people die. Men, women, children, elderly people. So yes, it is unlikely there will be an agreement in the first round of talks, but I hope and we should support further talks between the two, because in a war, the American people won't win, the North Korean people won't win.
I think this scenario would be worse because, as I said, there's a camp within the US who believe in the first strike policy, and those individuals are within the administration now, Pompeo and also Bolton. So they could make the argument, we've tried negotiation, we've tried the dialogue avenue, and we've failed. So if the argument is made in a more forceful way, then I think we're in a much worse situation than we were previous to any kind of negotiation and dialogue, because there won't be any other alternative other than, according to their view, the hawks within the US, that we need to bomb North Korea. So it puts us in a more precarious situation, I would think.
North Korea has said it would consider abandoning nuclear weapons in exchange for security guarantees. Already, talks are underway between North and South Korea about the military situation and the highly fortified demilitarized zone between the two states. Washington's involvement is seen as a highly influential element in turning such talks to action.
We've seen that Donald Trump has a history of provoking North Korea, and his latest threat to exit the nuclear agreement with Iran seems to give reason to be cautious. Is the US reliable? Critics point out that, while President Trump may want talks today, he wanted a war of words yesterday, and no one really knows if he'll want a very different kind of war tomorrow.